So are you wondering what's going on with the rental regulations in Ocean City, Maryland? You're not the only one, and that's what I'm going to cover in this video. And so if you own a property and you rely on the vacation rental income, or if you're thinking about investing and trying to make a decision, this is the video that you want to watch all the way through, because I'm going to go over everything, all the facts of what exactly was passed, how it works. I'm going to show a map view of the locations and the type of properties that are affected. And of course, I'm going to give my opinion a little bit. You don't want to miss this one. So what's going on, everybody? This is Rich, your local coastal Maryland and Delaware realtor. So I get people that reach out all the time and I love it. Never too busy to help. I'm gonna put my contact information down below in the description so you know what to do. And without further ado, let's hop into the video. All right, so we hopped into the computer here, and the first thing I wanted to cover is just, what are the rental regulations? Google actually does a really good job of an overview on here that I just want to go over. So, this says in 2025, Ocean City, Maryland implemented a new ordinance restricting short-term rentals in single-family residential, they call it R1, and mobile home, MH, districts. So the ordinance requires a minimum stay of 5 consecutive nights for rentals in these areas. So this restriction applies to rentals booked on or after March 3rd of 2025, and the bookings made before that date are grandfathered in under previous rules. So, and they go on to talk about that a stricter 31-night minimum stay will be enforced starting January 1st, 2027, effectively prohibiting short-term rentals in these districts. So a short-term rental is classified anything less than 30 days, really. So any rental of 31 days or more is considered a long-term rental. So really what they're targeting after here are the vacation rentals, short-term rentals. And this last little part here that in 2027 is what they're going to, is that the minimum of a 31-night minimum stay is really just saying, hey, we're doing away with vacation rentals in these certain areas. So that's the big thing. And they kind of stuck this in there when all this was going on. I made an older video. No need to really watch that one because this is the updated one with all the info that you would ever want to know. Is they kind of, things were changing meeting to meeting. And this is what they finally came up with, and they pushed it through. Of course, not everybody's happy with it. Actually, a lot of people are not happy with it. Some people are, and I'm going to give a little bit more on that, my opinion, later in the video. But to break this down too, so single family residential, so they're targeting low density, detached single family homes. And of course, they're including mobile homes or mobile home neighborhoods. And with this, Montego Bay is the biggest one that they're including in this, which is surprising just because there's a lot of homes back in there and there's a lot of secondary vacation homes back in there too. So it's pretty interesting. But let's go on the town of Ocean City's website, and we're going to take a look at a map and look at the areas that are included in with this, because I've had a lot of previous clients reach out, and I've seen a lot of videos on like TikTok and YouTube and social media. Just some people were afraid that they were banning short-term rentals everywhere in Ocean City, which that's hard to do. Ocean City is a resort town, which I'm really surprised that they pushed this through. Again, it's a resort town, and a lot of people know that it's a vacation spot, and this is what goes on since Ocean City's been around. But let's check this out here. This is the town of Ocean City's website here, and they break it down further, but that was a good summary on there a little bit. But I'm going to show you the map of where these zones are. So this talks about rental license, what you need. This talks about rental license in R1 and MH zoning districts. Regarding new applicants, summarize this up a little bit here too. So we went over all this information already here. So I thought this was interesting. So this says licenses will not be issued for properties that change ownership except under the following specific circumstances. So the first one, A, it says a property in R1 single family residential or the MH mobile home residential districts that is impacted by the death of a property owner that would cause and or create the need for a change in ownership of property, and for which a supplementary short-term rental license was issued prior to the death, and pursuant with subsections 1B and 1C, the moratorium may submit a request to the town in consideration that the city manager to permit an exception to the moratorium. So it looks like, if there's a death and that causes new ownership, maybe usually probably somebody new in the family, that they make an exception that you can still obtain a license. And B says for calendar year 2025, if a property in R1 single family residential or an MH mobile home residential district that has an existing rental license is sold with the settlement occurring before December 31st, 2025. So that's the year that we're in. The buyer of said property may apply for a rental license and the supplementary short-term license subject to all applicable code. And if obtained, the license is valid for the remainder of the calendar year. So this actually says, if somebody sells this year, 2025, the new owner can apply for a rental license for 2025, which I thought was interesting because in the initial summary, it just shows if you sell, they were not issuing any new short-term rental licenses, but sounds like you can apply for it for at least this year, but I guess maybe you won't have it for 2026, which that'll be interesting. But, of course, in 2027, they're mandating everybody in these districts and zones. If anybody's renting, it has to be a minimum of 31 days, again, which kind of ixnays the vacation rentals altogether. So let's take a look at the map, and this is more rules on here. You can go on the Town Ocean City's website if you're interested in this. But so here we are. Here's the rental maps. You can find out if you own a property, if you are already in the zone, which probably if you own a property, you already know. But if you're looking to invest and had questions on this, this only affects the detached single-family homes and mobile home locations that we're going to show on here. So it doesn't affect townhomes, multifamily, condos, doesn't affect you on there. And there's some detached single-family homes that are maybe like on the ocean side or in downtown area that this does not affect either. So I might have mentioned that earlier in the video, but if I didn't, I just mentioned it again here. But let's look at this map and show you what locations are being affected on here. But you got your legend and your key over here. See it over here on the right. So showing short-term rental of condo is in red. Long-term rental condo is in orange. Rental of an apartment building, which doesn't apply. Let's just look on here. So a rental of rooming dormitory, long-term rental single family. So short-term rental of single family home is in the brownish color. It shows light brownish. So let's take a look at this map. This is all Ocean City here. So here we go. Let's take a look at the R1 here, and looks like they're showing R1 in the yellow, and you can tell here we're in North Ocean City. So this is a lot of Cane Woods section here. So Cane Woods has majority of detached single family homes, but it has a lot of different condo buildings in this area, which I always think that's interesting. I've seen some videos of some owners in this area, that maybe had purchased or inherited a single family home that they do vacation rentals with, maybe to pay the bills and to keep it so they can maybe keep the property in the family and use it themselves. But they're pointing right across the street where there's a condo building that they can do rentals, but then they're right across the street in their single family home saying that they won't be able to do vacation rentals anymore. So I can see where that's frustrating. But you can see all this yellow. This is R1 low density district here. So just about all the Cane Woods, and right next to Cane Woods, right below it, is a huge community, Montego Bay. And you can see here, so that's MH. So there's a lot of mobile homes in there. Of course, there's a lot of stick-built single family homes in there too, which again, it's gonna fall under these regulations. So they're effective here. You got Heron Harbor. I just sold a condo. This is again, it has some mixed in here. A lot of condos on the canal here, which I just helped the sellers sell their condo. But it won't affect anything in here. But you can see in the yellow, this R1, all these single families here are going to be effective. And there's quite a few year-round residents in Heron Harbor, but there was quite a few vacation rentals in there too. That I've seen. Then you have this right here at Cane Keys. A lot of canal front single family homes here. That's all R1. It's going to be falling under these restrictions here. Little Salisbury, you see all that. This is right behind like Liquid Assets, Kirby's, Lombardi's, all the single family residential homes are right here. But you have a lot of, when you go further back, you got a lot of those condos and townhomes that won't be affected. But let's keep on moving. So you notice everything's on the bay side with this map, and there's a huge community over here. Sunset Island, which is not affected. They're considered higher density than I guess the R1. But here you got this little section here. This is popular. A lot of beautiful, bigger homes back in here. Peel Drive, you know, they have the White Marlin open weigh-ins right next to here, which gets packed. But I guess nobody can rent out technically their homes over that way for that event. So that's it. So really it doesn't seem like a lot of different neighborhoods, but then again it is, you know, I think the biggest ones, you know, with that Cane Woods and Montego Bay, of course Heron Harbor, Little Salisbury, I guess all of them really, but Montego Bay is a big one, you know, I would say. But at least that shows you on the map and what's affected. Like I said, everything else does not, especially if, you know, you're a townhome, multifamily condos does not affect those, so don't worry about that. So hopefully that clears that up. So let's talk a little bit about pros and cons, and I'm going to give just a little bit of my opinion of what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing here too. So the pro side of this, or another perspective, you know, somebody who lives year round in Ocean City, is for these more regulations. You know, I guess what they're, you know, trying to do is maybe keep these low density, you know, single family home areas a little less transient, a little less foot traffic, less noise pollution. You know, sometimes when, you know, you have rentals, vacation, maybe you have a large family or multiple families staying in the house, you know, sometimes you could have, you know, maybe more extra noise at the wee hours of nights, you know, maybe not a full-on party or anything like that. But, you know, I think that's one of the things that were brought up during the conversations and pushing these through, you know. And the other side of it, you know, it's all about property rights. You know, basically you have the town of Ocean City telling you what you cannot do with your property, and they're going to limit you from, you know, making income with it. You know, because vacation rentals can be very lucrative, and you basically have somebody telling you that you can't do it anymore. Especially that example I mentioned in Cane Woods, where, you know, I saw a video, somebody owned a house, single family home, right across the street from a condo building, and they said that they're going to be able to do vacation rentals right there across the street, but I won't be able to do it right here, again, across the street. So I could see where that could be very frustrating. Some people have, you know, these homes, maybe they've been in the family, or they purchase it specifically to maybe use themselves for a little while, but they wanted to supplement, you know, their income and with short-term rentals to help pay for the property. And that's a tough thing to swallow when, you know, maybe you bought it for that purpose. Now they're saying, no, you can't do it anymore. Or maybe if you had the home in the family, you know, and that's one way that you're able to keep the house to pay for the taxes. So there we have it. That's the breakdown of all the facts on the new rental regulations there. Hopefully that's helped you out. And if it has, you know, show the love, you know, click that like button and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the content that I come out with every week, and new updates that are coming out. And there should be a video popping up here that should be right for you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.